In a quiet village called Nyumbani, nestled at the foot of the great mountains, there lived a beautiful girl named Zuri. Zuri was admired by everyone in the village. Her beauty was unmatched, and her presence radiated a kind of light that warmed the hearts of all who met her. Men from far and wide traveled to Nyumbani, seeking her hand in marriage, but Zuri never said yes. She would listen to their pleas with a gentle smile, but her heart remained distant. Her glowing skin, radiant smile, and eyes that sparkled like the stars made Zuri the talk of the town. But despite the many suitors, she preferred to spend time with her two best friends, Amina and Kwame. She trusted them completely and confided in them about her secret struggles, things she could never share with anyone else. Zuri harbored a deep secret, one that she could not escape from. Since the age of 15, she had felt an unusual fire inside her. It was not just a passing feeling, but a relentless and burning desire that she could never quiet. She needed the presence of a man, and it wasn't just one man. Some days, she found herself seeking out multiple men in a single day, all in an effort to ease the burning sensation inside her. No matter how many men she was with, the fire never went away. It was something she couldn't explain, even to herself. She had tried everything she could think of, to stop the restlessness. She had even paid men to be with her, hoping that might bring relief. But nothing worked. As time went by, the fire inside her grew stronger. By the time Zuri turned 25, she had lost count of how many men had been a part of her life, yet she could never truly be satisfied. The guilt consumed her, and every night she would lie awake, wondering why she was cursed with such a terrible secret. Her parents were unaware of what was happening to their daughter. They often questioned her, wondering why she wasn't married yet. "Zuri, you are so beautiful. Why don't you settle down with a nice man?" they would say, urging her to choose a suitor. But Zuri could not tell them the truth. How could she explain that one man was never enough for her? How could she admit that she needed many men to feel at peace, even for a moment? She kept her secret locked away, telling her parents that she wasn't ready for marriage, even though the real reason was far darker. She told herself that one day someone might come along who could help her. But deep inside, Zuri knew she was running out of time. One fateful day, as she walked out of a small cafe in the heart of Nyumbani, Zuri bumped into a young man named Jomo. Jomo was kind and gentle, and there was something about him that made Zuri feel different. For the first time in a long while, her heart raced and her cheeks flushed with warmth. "Are you all right?" Jomo asked, his voice full of concern. Zuri nodded quickly, unable to find her voice. Something inside her stirred, and without thinking, she agreed to accept Jomo's offer for a ride home. It was a moment of unexpected kindness, and Zuri couldn't resist the chance to spend more time with this intriguing stranger. That night, after their chance meeting, Zuri couldn't stop thinking about Jomo. She felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. Perhaps, just perhaps, Jomo could be the one to bring her the peace she so desperately sought. She began to believe that love might heal the fire inside her. As the days passed, Zuri and Jomo grew closer. They spent more and more time together, and soon Jomo confessed his love for her. Zuri was overjoyed. For the first time, she believed that her life could be different, that the secret fire inside her could finally be put to rest. But no matter how deeply Zuri loved Jomo, the burning desire inside her refused to fade. She tried to hide it, to be faithful to Jomo, but the pull of the fire was too strong. She found herself sneaking away to meet other men, just to ease the constant ache inside her. She hated herself for it, but she couldn't resist. Every time she was with Jomo, she felt like she was lying to him, betraying the love they shared. One evening, Jomo surprised Zuri with a proposal. He dropped down on one knee, holding a simple but beautiful ring. "Zuri, will you marry me?" he asked, his voice full of sincerity. Zuri was shocked. Her heart fluttered, and for a moment, everything seemed perfect. She said yes without hesitation, but deep inside, she wondered if she could truly be the woman Jomo deserved. The next day, Zuri rushed to meet Amina and Kwame, eager to show them her engagement ring. She smiled widely as she told them the news, and they both cheered with joy, embracing her tightly. They had always supported her, and now they celebrated her newfound happiness. But as Amina and Kwame hugged Zuri, Kwame couldn't shake the dark feeling that had been growing inside him. He had always been in Zuri's shadow, and now, seeing her get everything she had ever wanted, a bitter jealousy began to take root in his heart. How could Zuri, who carried such a dark secret, be the one to find love and happiness? Why was he, Kwame, left without anyone? Kwame's jealousy grew, and soon he hatched a plan. A plan to destroy Zuri's happiness and prevent her wedding to Jomo. He couldn't stand the thought of her having it all, but his plan would have consequences that none of them could foresee. As the days passed, Zuri's wedding day drew closer. The village of Nyumbani buzzed with excitement, preparing for the grand celebration of Zuri and Jomo's love. The wedding preparations were in full swing. Flowers were being arranged, the hall was being decorated, and the entire village seemed to be eagerly anticipating the event. Zuri, though, could barely contain her nervousness. She was excited, of course, but a part of her felt an overwhelming dread, the weight of her secret pressing down on her chest. She loved Jomo deeply, but she couldn't stop the gnawing feeling that something was terribly wrong. Would he truly accept her for who she was, or would he be horrified if he ever discovered the truth? Her mind raced, but she tried to push her fears aside. Jomo had never once judged her, and she had never told him the truth about the fire inside her. He had fallen in love with the woman she was, and Zuri wanted so desperately to believe that love could conquer all. The night before the wedding, Zuri lay awake in her bed, staring at the ceiling. Her mind flashed back to the first time she had met Jomo, how he had made her feel safe, understood, and valued. How, for the first time in years, she had allowed herself to dream of a future without the constant ache and restlessness. But as she lay there, her heart heavy with the weight of her secret, she heard a faint sound coming from the window. She froze, her pulse quickening. It was a soft rustling, like someone was outside, watching. Zuri's instincts told her that something was amiss. She crept out of bed and carefully approached the window, peering out into the dark. There, in the shadows, she saw the silhouette of someone moving stealthily in the distance. It was Kwame. Zuri's heart skipped a beat as she watched her best friend linger outside her window, his expression hidden in the darkness. She didn't know what he was doing there, but her instincts told her that something wasn't right. What could he possibly want at this hour? The next morning, the village was alive with excitement. The wedding ceremony was about to begin, and the hall was packed with guests. Zuri arrived at the venue, her heart pounding in her chest. Jomo was waiting at the altar, a bright smile on his face, but Zuri could see the nerves in his eyes. He was just as nervous as she was. As the ceremony began, everything felt like a dream. The music played softly, the guests watched in anticipation, and Zuri felt as though she were floating. She exchanged vows with Jomo, her voice trembling but filled with love. She promised to be faithful to him, to be the woman he deserved, even though a part of her feared she could never live up to that promise. But just as they were about to exchange rings, something strange happened. The large screen at the front of the hall flickered, its bright light momentarily blinding everyone. The guests gasped as the screen displayed a video that no one had expected. The video was of Zuri, but it wasn't a sweet montage of memories between her and Jomo. No, it was something far more shocking. The video showed Zuri in intimate moments with different men, some from the village, some from distant towns. It was a shocking revelation. The room fell into a stunned silence as the sounds of their voices filled the hall. Zuri's face turned pale as she watched her deepest secret unfold before her eyes. Her breath caught in her throat as she saw the looks of shock and disbelief on the faces of the guests. Jomo's face turned white as he saw the video. His eyes widened in horror, and his mouth went dry. He turned to look at Zuri, his expression a mix of confusion and pain. "What is this?" he whispered, his voice barely audible. Zuri stood frozen, unable to speak. She had no words to explain herself. She had never wanted this. The whispers in the room grew louder, and Zuri could feel the weight of everyone's judgment bearing down on her. Her worst fear had come true. Her secret was exposed, and now everyone knew. Jomo didn't say a word. He turned and walked out of the hall, leaving Zuri standing there, broken and humiliated. She ran after him, tears streaming down her face as she begged him to listen, to understand. But Jomo didn't stop. He was too hurt, too angry, and too confused to listen. He got into his car and drove away, leaving Zuri standing alone in the middle of the crowd, her dreams shattered. Amina and Kwame rushed to Zuri's side, but the damage had been done. Kwame's face was filled with a strange mixture of guilt and satisfaction, but Zuri couldn't focus on that now. All she could do was cry, her heart breaking as she realized what had just happened. The next few days were filled with pain and regret. Zuri stayed in her house, unable to face anyone, especially Jomo. She knew she had lost him, and no amount of apologies or explanations could change that. She had been so certain that love would heal her, but now she saw that it wasn't enough. She had to face her truth, the truth about the fire inside her that had ruined everything. As the days passed, Zuri tried to keep herself together. She sought help from a doctor, someone who could help her with her condition. It was not an easy process. The shame she felt was overwhelming, and the treatment was slow. But Zuri knew that she had to fight for her life, for the chance to heal and become the woman she had always wanted to be. Meanwhile, Kwame, who had secretly orchestrated the humiliation of his best friend, felt a strange sense of emptiness. He had thought that by destroying Zuri's happiness, he would finally have the chance to be with Jomo. But when he saw the aftermath of his actions, the pain in Zuri's eyes, the loss in her heart, he realized that what he had done was unforgivable. His jealousy had clouded his judgment, and now he had lost not only Zuri's trust, but also his own sense of self. He decided to make things right. He sought out Zuri, apologizing for the pain he had caused. He begged for her forgiveness, but Zuri could not erase what had happened. Their friendship would never be the same again. Zuri forgave him, but there was no going back. In time, Zuri and Jomo began to rebuild their relationship. Jomo had realized that Zuri's actions had been a result of a health condition, not something she could control. He reached out to her, offering his support. Through therapy and time, Zuri's condition slowly began to improve, and she started to feel at peace. Eventually, Jomo and Zuri got married in a small, intimate ceremony, surrounded by the people who truly cared for them. Amina stood by Zuri's side as her maid of honor, and they both knew that despite the pain they had endured, they had emerged stronger and more united. The moral of Zuri's story is this: no matter how hard we try to hide our secrets, they always find a way to surface. The truth has a way of coming out, and sometimes it is painful. But the path to healing begins with honesty, acceptance, and seeking help. Zuri learned that love, no matter how deep, cannot always solve everything, but with patience and support, even the deepest wounds can heal. Kwame, on the other hand, learned that jealousy and envy could destroy not only relationships, but also one's own sense of self. He realized the importance of supporting his friends, not tearing them down, and he vowed to change his ways. And so, Zuri and Jomo lived their lives together, learning to love and heal each other every day. Though the scars of their past remained, they had found a way to move forward, together. Months passed, and Zuri had learned to find peace within herself. Though the wounds of the past still left faint scars, the strength she had gained from her journey gave her the courage to face the future with hope. Zuri and Jomo's relationship had evolved into something deeper. What had once been a simple love story was now one of understanding and compassion, built on the foundation of truth. The healing process was slow, but with Jomo by her side, Zuri felt as though the weight of the world had been lifted from her shoulders. One evening, as the sun set over the rolling hills of Nyumbani, Jomo took Zuri's hand and led her to the top of a small hill overlooking the village. The vibrant hues of orange and pink filled the sky, and the cool evening breeze gently brushed their faces. It was a moment of stillness, a time to reflect on the long road they had traveled together. I never thought we'd make it this far, Jomo said softly, his voice full of emotion. But I'm glad we did. Zuri smiled, her heart full. Me too, she whispered. I never imagined that I'd find someone who could love me the way you do, through everything. Jomo turned to face her, his eyes warm and full of love. I've always loved you, Zuri, not just for who you were, but for who you are now. You fought so hard, and I'm proud of you. Zuri felt tears welling up in her eyes, but these were not tears of sorrow. They were tears of gratitude, gratitude for the man standing before her, the man who had never given up on her, even when the world had turned its back. In that moment, she realized that love was not about perfection. It was about acceptance, growth, and the willingness to stand by each other, even when life seemed impossible. Their marriage was a quiet affair, far from the grandeur of the original wedding they had once planned. It was simple, intimate, surrounded by close family and friends who had supported them through the hardest of times. Amina stood by Zuri's side, her face beaming with joy, while Kwame was at the back, a silent witness to the love that had endured despite everything. The day they exchanged their vows, Zuri looked at Jomo, her heart swelling with love. I promise you, she said, that I will always be honest with you. I will always fight for us, even when the road is tough. We are stronger together than we could ever be apart. Jomo smiled, his voice filled with warmth and promise. And I will love you, Zuri. No matter what comes, I will always be by your side. You are my heart. Their lives continued, marked by moments of joy and occasional setbacks. Zuri's condition, though never fully gone, became easier to manage with the support of medical professionals and the love of those around her. She became a beacon of strength in Nyumbani, sharing her story with others who struggled with their own hidden battles. People in the village admired her bravery, her honesty, and the resilience she had shown in the face of adversity. Jomo, too, grew in his role as a husband, learning the depths of patience and understanding. He took on more responsibilities at work, and together, he and Zuri built a life that was both fulfilling and meaningful. Their love was not without challenges, but with each passing day, they learned that love was not just about the happy moments. It was also about standing strong during the hard ones. As the years went by, Zuri and Jomo's bond deepened. They started a family, their home filled with the sounds of children's laughter, and their love for each other growing stronger with every passing day. Zuri no longer felt the weight of her secret as she once had. She had faced it, accepted it, and found peace. She was no longer defined by the fire inside her, but by the love and strength she had cultivated within herself. One day, as Zuri walked through the village square with her children, she saw Kwame from a distance. He had changed. His face was no longer marked by the bitterness that had once consumed him. He had found his own path to healing, and while his friendship with Zuri could never be the same, there was a quiet respect between them now. He nodded at her as they passed each other, and Zuri, without a word, smiled softly. They had both come a long way. That evening, Zuri sat with Jomo on the porch of their home, watching the sunset. The sky was ablaze with color, and the world around them seemed at peace. Their children played nearby, and the air was filled with the scent of the earth, rich and full of life. I never imagined life could be this way, Zuri said softly, her voice filled with contentment. I've always dreamed of a future like this, but I didn't believe it was possible, not after everything. Jomo took her hand in his, squeezing it gently. Sometimes the future we imagine is only possible when we face the darkness of our past. You've done that, Zuri. And look at what we've built together. Zuri leaned her head on his shoulder, feeling the warmth of his embrace. For the first time in a long while, she felt truly at peace. She had faced her darkest fears, embraced her flaws, and in doing so, had found the kind of love that could weather any storm. She knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. And in that moment, with the sun setting on another beautiful day in Nyumbani, Zuri realized that her story wasn't defined by her secrets or her struggles. It was defined by her strength, her love, and her unwavering belief that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope.